Welcome to everyone, and once again, wishing everyone, all of you and your family, a very happy and a prosperous and a healthy new year. So, I would like to begin with a prayer. Om Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gururdevo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today's topic is collapsing of infinity. We have all heard that in spirituality that Brahman is infinite, Atman is infinite. But the experience, our day-to-day experience is not infinite. It is very, very finite. So why did infinity collapse and become finite? What was the reason? What does infinity mean? Now, can we relate infinity to our everyday lives? First of all, to begin with, I would like to offer my prostrations to my teacher, my mentor, my guide, Sri Prabhuji, and my inspiration, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj and Sri Ramana Maharshi. So there are two terms here. Infinity, the symbol of infinity is seen on top, and it is like a horizontal 8. Now, in the Indian tradition, in the Eastern tradition, a similar symbol is used called 0, which is otherwise also called Shunya or Purna in our Sanatana Dharma. Now, both of these have one thing in common. Both of these symbols have one thing in common. Can we recognize it? What would that be? You can say, unmute, and see. And speak up.
Circle.
Circle. What about infinity? 8.
Two circles looks like.
2 circles. Okay. Thank you, Maneji. 2 circles. Anybody else?
Both are closed, sir.
Both are closed. Wonderful. Both are closed. Yes. Both are closed.
It's continuous and has no break.
It is continuous and has no break. So both are closed and it's continuous and no break has a very deep implication. What would that be?
No beginning and no end.
No beginning and no end. Continuous, both are closed, circles. Now, the essential nature of both of these symbols is no beginning and no end. So that is why infinity, the symbol itself, shows that no beginning and no end means that it is birthless and deathless. What do we understand by infinity? Is it something very large, very huge? who tries to grasp infinity here? Now,
It's like it goes on, sir. So infinity means it goes on and on and on. There is no end for it.
okay, there is no end for it. Very nice. So the question here is, infinity is something very large. There is no end for it. Now, we or I, as an individual mind-body complex, is limited. Do we agree with this?
Yes, but I think infinity just keeps growing continuously.
Yes. So, is it a concept in our mind?
Beyond the mind.
No. Growing continuously, something beyond.
Yeah,
No
because
beginning,
if we
no
feel
end.
we've
Who is
grasped
saying this?
something,
Who is
yeah, if we
saying
feel
this?
we've learned or grasped something, then it seems to be like it's still going on. So there's so much more to
Who
learn,
has
so much
grasped
more
it?
to grasp. Yeah.
Yeah. Who has grasped it? The human
A
mind.
finite entity is grasping it.
Yes. So, can a finite entity grasp an infinite? Something that is infinite?
No.
No. At least
So,
I don't think so.
So then, are we doomed in trying along the journey of spirituality? Have we reached a dead end?
I think we should just feel that we should just go on. It doesn't matter. Don't set some kind of. I mean, we're just walking down the path, no? So I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
So that is one model. Very nice, Malti. Just enjoy the journey. Keep doing. There is no goal. There is no need to have any specific target or goal or vision. Just enjoy. Take life as it comes. Okay, that is one model. The other model is, okay, work, have a set of goals. Now, if we say we just go on as life takes us, then what do we do, or do we do anything positive about realization, or just leave it? The question here is that, has the mind, which is finite, made a misconception about infinity? Are we sure we are proceeding in the right direction? So how do we reconcile this?
Just be.
Just be. Wonderful. Just be. That means just be like that.
Yeah, not analyzing it too much, maybe.
You see, who's saying that? Still the individual mind.
Right.
So I can't be, when the nature of the mind and the intellect is to emote and analyze, am I suppressing my mind, my intellect? So this is the whole thing about the whole inspiration of this is from the shloka Purnamadaha. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Purnamadaha, that is infinite. that is infinite or complete. That meaning Brahman, God. Purnamidam, this is infinite or complete, whole. This meaning Jiva or the world. Purnat Purnamudachyate. From infinite, infinity has come out. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. When infinity is extracted from infinity, what remains is infinity. Isn't it? So, whatever we do to infinity, high school mathematics or same college mathematics says, if you add infinity to infinity, infinity remains. If you subtract infinity from infinity, what happens to it? Still infinity remains. If you multiply, nothing happens to infinity. If you divide infinity with infinity, nothing happens to infinity. So, for a person who has just learned counting, suppose he has learned to count 1 to 100 and he does not know any number beyond 100. Doesn't 101 seem infinity to him? If to another person who knows how to count up to 200, 101 is still a finite number. So what the mind cannot grasp, what is beyond the intellect, the intellect simply terms it as infinity. But is it beyond the experience at all? That is a question that we have to ask. So, if the human mind is limited, as an individual, I will never be able to gauge infinity. Because I, as an individual, with this body-mind complex, the body is limited, the mind is limited, the intellect is limited. I can conceptualize infinity, but I can never get to infinity as this body-mind complex, as a jiva, as an individual. Then this Brahma, self-realization, God-realization becomes a big question mark if we go on this route. So it is. So therefore, we have to investigate this. Though now the scriptures have said that if you do anything to infinity, nothing happens to it, it remains infinite. But what is our normal day-to-day experience? Is it the same? Take, for example, our bank balance. In the beginning of the month, we have a certain amount in the bank balance and we spend money. Now, when we take out some money from our bank account, will the bank account remain the same? No, isn't it? Or suppose there is a birthday party and we have a piece of cake All right. Now, there is a saying, we can't eat the cake and have it too. So, the birthday boy or the birthday girl comes and cuts a piece of cake. And once they cut the piece of cake, it is removed. What happens? What remains is less than a full piece of cake, a part of the cake. So, what remains is never the original, never complete, isn't it? So any operation we do in the finite world, in the transactional world, we cannot really reconcile that as infinite. What remains out of a certain operation on an object is less than, it alters the original. Similarly, if one may ask, what is 5 plus 5? Now, obviously, the answer will be 10, straight, no-brainer. Nobody is going to come and say it is 5 again, if you add 5 to 5. So, again, you see, there is a conflict between the original, what we set out, and the result, the final. This is our day-to-day experience. How do we reconcile this? Is it ever possible? Is God realization or Brahman realization or self-realization ever possible in this mode while we live on this earth then? While we experience our day-to-day living? The no beginning, no end, the birthless, the deathless, the infinite, the eternal. Are these only fancy terms? Invented by somebody, taking us on a ride? Or is there reality to it? Is there truth to it? And is there a hope that even I, as an individual, can realize infinity? What would you say?
When I identify myself with the unchanging I, it is possible.
Okay. Now, there is this power of infinite behind the finite. How do we know this? We saw that if we cut a piece of cake, then what remains is a smaller piece of cake, less than a full piece of cake. But take a sentient being, take a being with life. Though I, as an individual, am limited, what gives me life is the power of life, which is infinite. Now, that can come into an experience in everyday life as well. We can recognize it. What happens during creation or when during birth, in the initial phase, 2 cells come together during creation. The ovum and the sperm, isn't it? Now, this is when they come together, they attach to each other. It is almost like the symbol of infinity. Now, when 2 cells come together in any sentient being, in a sentient environment, do they remain 2 or they get merged into 1?
Merge.
Yes, isn't it? 2 became 1. Now, this is the creative process. This is the creative intelligence energy. When two things combine, two things no longer remain two, but merge and become one whole. Now, the phenomenon of growth is quite the opposite. How does a baby grow? We've all been babies and we have grown till today. How have we grown? We have been about 18 inches tall and about 3.5 pounds or 4 pounds in weight, about a foot wide when we were born as infants, isn't it? But how have we grown? How did we become 5.5 feet tall? What happened during the biological process? See, there is a single cell. What happened to the cell? During the process of life, it split itself. It split itself into two. It separated. One cell became two halves. Now, what happened to the half? What happened to the two halves? There is some mysterious process that happens.
Multiplied.
No, that the two halves became a whole. Now, when the cell divides itself into two, do you say that it is two halves or two cells? In any living being, the two halves complement. There's some intelligent process that happened that initially the cell split into two, became two halves, two equal halves. But the halves, by the creative life energy process, became full again. And 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes 8. 8 becomes 16. It keeps on multiplying. That's how we grow, isn't it? How do we grow physically? Only when the cell, by its own compassion, agrees to destroy itself. For what? For the growth of the larger being.
So
Now,
actually they start with the merging and then they all multiply in such a way that they're contributing to one whole, right?
yes, each one plays the role. When the cell splits, not just in humans, in any sentient being, there is a very mysterious process happening. If you cut a cake into two, you'll get two halves. You can never make it a whole. But when the cell splits into two, it is initially the two halves. Then there is a mysterious process that the two halves become two whole. That's how one becomes two. That is how growth happens. In fact, growth is by the initiation of destruction of the whole, the single cell. Otherwise, we would never have grown. You see? So, the way we have grown itself, we know that some process is making us complete every minute, every second. But we don't recognize it. We are finite, and every second we become infinite. Whatever is the lack gets complemented, and as a process, automatically there is a natural intelligence that is happening in nature and outside in nature and within our own body-mind complex that is making things complete. But what is our feeling? I am limited, I am powerless, God is all powerful. Infinity is out there, I am finite here. Isn't it? See, one split, this one cell has become two, not two halves, two full cells in the process. Now again, what will happen? These two will split themselves and they will become two halves each and then complete. So they'll become four cells. So there is a geometric progression. So the process of growth is quite the opposite in nature, but not in effect, but in nature, to the process that happens at conception of a life. But both create the whole. During the time of conception, two cells merge into one single cell, unified cell, whereas during the process of growth, one cell splits into two and the two become two whole cells, not two half cells. Isn't this a perfect example of infinity within our own body? Then what is the problem? The problem is we only don't recognize it. So, if we try to understand this, our normal idea of creator and creation is that there is a creator out there who is infinite and he's created the creation which is finite. All of us. So we say God, creator, which is Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, the creator, the sustainer and the destroyer, the balancer. And then the creation, which is the world and the beings, the sentient and the insentient components of creation. We say God is all powerful. Omnipotent means he's all powerful. Omniscient means he's present everywhere. Omnipresent, he is present everywhere. Omniscient, he is all knowing. There is nothing that can be hidden from him. We all have heard the great incident of Bhakta Kanakadasa, isn't it? When his guru, Vyasaraya, gave bananas to every disciple and posed a challenge in a place where nobody sees. Everybody came back after having eaten the banana, but except Kanaka, who said, "My Lord, my teacher, my guru, sir, I could not find any place where I could hide from God and eat, so I have got the banana back alone." So God is present everywhere. The creator is present everywhere. There's no place where we can hide from him. In contrast, what is creation? Creation is finite. It's not omnipotent, it is weak. I am not all powerful. If you consider me, I can be overthrown, I can be defeated easily. I am present, I am not all-knowing, I have some knowledge, I have a lot of ignorance about other things, so I am not omniscient. I have specific knowledge, and I am present in a single place. at some time. So I am not omnipresent. Okay. So it is then, this restriction comes from considering myself as a form, variety, and movement. I can be at one place at one time because I have to keep moving. I can't be at two places at the same time. Variety, I can't be like the other person. I can't be like everybody else because I am different as an individual. And because I have a form, I am limited. There is an error there in the creation. Variety has got repeated twice. It must be movement or energy. Form, energy, and variety. So when I am an individual, I'm a part of creation, then creator is infinite, I am finite. This is the typical model that we have grown up in the beginning phase. And this is a common understanding that most people have. There is nothing wrong with it. What this helps is to regulate our life to a certain ethical, moral code of conduct. To be in tune, in harmony with nature and the world, higher realms of life around us. So this model of creator and creation, the creator, what does this mean? What is the limitation of this? Creator is out there. God is out there and I am here. God is out in the heaven, I am on earth. There is a barrier, there is the physical distance, there is the mental distance between me and God. But there is one fundamental limitation to this. What was it? What would it be? God is all powerful, perfect. Isn't it? He is a perfect being. But God is subject to faith or belief. Isn't it so? If God exists, he or she or it is all powerful, all present everywhere, all knowing and perfect. Nothing can go wrong with God. So there is uncertainty about the existence of God, the God of religion, because the God of religion is dependent on the faith in the human being. A person may believe God exists, another person may believe God doesn't exist. So there is perfection, there is completeness in God, provided he, she, or it exists. Why we say provided? Because it's subject to faith and belief. Contrary to that, have you ever wondered that you exist? No, isn't it? As an individual, I am certain that I exist. I never doubt my own existence because I can see, I can touch, I can feel, I can experience my body, mind. Whether it's happiness or frustration, I can still experience it. Whether it's pleasure or pain, I can experience it. So it gives me some objectivity, some tangible thing. So my existence as an individual is certain. It is definite. Not subject to belief. Nobody has to put a stamp of approval for my existence. Neither do I have to prove my existence to somebody. But there is one disadvantage. My existence as an individual is imperfect. It is filled with problems, sorrows, and then troubles, and then finite things, things not going okay. All kinds of imperfections we think of is available in an individual's life, existence. So here is a paradox. The Creator, his existence is perfect, but existence itself is questionable. Whereas the individual's existence is imperfect, but is certain, never questionable. So religion can't provide the answer to this. Somebody might come and say, I don't believe in God. What will you say? You can't force a person to say, believe in God. So what is the answer to this? Now, if the answer, then the spirituality takes into account the exploration of human experience as we live, and questions the very nature of our experience that we have taken for granted, and explores whether we are imperfect, whether we are limited. And this is the exploration of Vedantic truths. Isn't it? So what is the model that Vedanta is proposing, is actually outlined? There is the original consciousness, which is called Brahman. And then this Brahman comes and reflects in the instrument called the human mind, or the subtle instrument. And there is a reflection. The human mind can be considered to be a mirror. So the original light, when it falls on the subtle body, right now let's take it as the mind, there is a reflection of the original light, or the supreme consciousness, in the mind. So there are two things that are happening here. One is the mind itself is providing the surface for reflection, and the reflection is happening in the mirror, in the mind. And what is the reflection? It is the reflection of the light of consciousness, not the physical light, but the nature of consciousness in the human mind. Now, when it reflects in the human mind, what happens? There is a beam, a ray of light that the mind actually gives out, beams out. Where does it beam? Where does the light beam? Light of the moon, light of the mind beam? It beams onto the body or the sense organs. When it beams to the sense organs light up. That means they get activated. And then when the sense organs get activated, what happens? They have the ability to see the world. So when the light of consciousness, or the light of witness, falls on the mind gets enlivened. And it beams, it reflects and sends out a beam of light on the body, on the sense organs, activating all the sense organs. So then the sense organs are able to perceive the world. They're able to see the world. They are able to see the forms and color. They're able to hear the sounds. They're able to smell the smell. They're able to taste the food. They're able to feel the touch. All of these are possible because of the reflection of the original, first on the mind, and then the secondary reflection on the sense organs. Now here, there is one in this example, in this model, there is one thing to be noted. That the sun, if you consider the whole thing, for example, if you consider the sun, the moon, and the earth, we all know the moonlight is a reflection of sunlight, isn't it? The sunlight falls on the moon, and the moon beams the moon rays onto the earth. And when the moonlight falls on the earth in the night, we are able to see what is there on our way using our eyes. But in the case of Brahman and the individual, it is the same consciousness appearing in the subtle body or the mind as a reflection, and then appearing as the ability to see in the sense organs. So the mirror, in the case of this example, the mirror is inert. Whereas in the case of human beings or any sentient, any living beings, the mind gets sentience, gets enlivened. But the only problem is, it assumes that it is the knower, it is the seer. In this case, where am I? I am all this. The original is still the consciousness and the witness, and I am receiving what is the original is also reflected in me. Therefore, the power of the original, I have the ability to reflect the power of the original, provided the mirror of my mind is shining and undistorted. So the role of sadhana is to keep the mirror clean, is to keep the mirror plain. Now, this model has the thing, we are no way separating creator from creation. Is there a break anywhere here? Is there a gap between the creator and creation in this case? Now, within me, if I can get into my conscious experience, whatever is happening, I know is because of the light of the witness, or the light of the self. Then, how am I limited? I naturally become the light of the self only, which is unlimited, isn't it? Expressing through these finite body, mind, intellect. So here is one way, one hope that Vedanta is providing, that while I remain as a body, mind, intellect, limited, but I have that instrument. If it is used as an instrument properly, it can shine, it can reflect in full flow, in full glory, the light of the self, which is otherwise called the witness. So when the light of consciousness comes into first contact with the mind as a reflection, it is otherwise called Chidabhasa, the reflected consciousness. It has collapsed into the mind, into the individual. Now, at the level of manifestation, there is mutual dependency. Can you separate the reflection from the mirror? The reflection is dependent on the mirror, and the mirror is dependent on the light that falls on it. What happens if you remove the mirror? The reflection doesn't happen. Now, why should infinite collapse into finite? Why should it happen? What is the need? Infinity can remain infinity. Brahman can remain Brahman. Why should the infinite collapse itself into a finite reflection?
It is only an appearance.
Why? Why?
It's a
Why should it be?
superimposition. Just a superimposition.
No.
Just like
Yes.
how you put an iron in fire, the iron glows, looks as though it has become a ball of fire.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas it is just taken the light. It is just the light is appearing. It is not permanent. It is just a superimposition.
No, that doesn't explain creation. That doesn't explain then why this process has happened. It is a valid, it's a very valid example, very valid model to explain the superimposition. That means to separate out things. That means no object is independent on its own. Like the iron lights up because of the fire, it has no inherent light. That example of iron ball in a fire becoming a fireball is a very good example of borrowed light. Like this very example of moon. Moonlight is a borrowed light from the sun.
Just like how
Just
snake,
be with me. Just be with me for a while.
snake
Just
is-
follow this.
Okay.
Why should infinity collapse to become finite? Why cannot infinity remain infinity?
It is a creation. It's a dream of the infinity is the creation.
What is the purpose of dream?
It wants to multiply.
Infinity doesn't have one characteristic that the finite has when it reflects. What would that be? Anyone else? Nirmala ji, you are right. I'm not negating, but the question here is why today, if I am a jiva, I'm this thing, then there is a reflection of the original in me. Why should the reflection is I am limited, so it is a reflection. Still, it is a reflection. It is not the original. So let us also move around. The question here we have to address is why should the infinite collapse into a finite object, sentient or insentient.
When there is total balance, then it is infinity. When there is a slight
There is,
imbalance,
just follow this, that there is something that infinity has a limitation when compared to the finite.
I think manifestation is the expression for infinity.
So manifestation is the expression for infinity. Can infinity express itself without the instrument? If infinite remains infinite, what is, even in spirituality, what is the definition of infinity? It is still, it is steady, it is unmovable, it is undescribable. It is unmovable means what? It doesn't move not just physically. Even there is not even a slight mental excursion. If there is no movement in the mind, what happens? No experience is possible. So if there is one reason that infinity collapses into finite reflection, it is because it wants to experience itself. Like Ganeshan said, it wants to express itself through a finite medium. All mediums are finite. No medium is infinite. So if there is no manifestation, there is no experience. If there is no experience, there is no learning. If there is no learning, there is no growth. If there is no growth, there is no evolution. If there is no evolution, hope for realization is zero. While everything is a play, a leela, the whole collapsing is an aid for the individual to give hope to reach the source, or to realize the source, not to reach the source, to realize the source. To say that the individual is not different from the source. Otherwise, infinity can become infinity, can remain infinity. What happens if the CEO doesn't come to the office? He has enough bank balance, he has enough power, he has invested. Will the company be able to engage in transactions? No, isn't it? It'll go haywire. If the company doesn't grow, can the individuals grow? The staff members grow? So though the CEO has the power and the capability to remain aloof, voluntarily he engages himself in the activities of the organization or business. God or Brahman could have remained Brahman, always remains Brahman, even now, but out of sheer compassion, agrees by his own power, which is Maya Shakti to reflect in finite instruments for experiencing Him. Experience is a sample, a taste, so that our path to realization can be fixed, can be firm. Why? Because out of ignorance, I as an individual have considered myself separate from Brahman. And this separation is artificial. It is not real. So, if you look at how the association happens, the light of the witness, the light of the self, gets reflected in the mind, and this is the reflected consciousness in the mirror. Okay. Now, the feeling of I, when I say I right now, what does Vedanta refer to? It refers to the reflected awareness or the reflected consciousness in the subtle body. Because Parabrahman, which is a supreme absolute reality, will not have a feeling of I. It's simply still, it's absolute, it is infinite, it is complete in itself. If anyone is complete in himself, is there a need to do anything? No. Isn't it? Therefore, the I that is referred to, the feeling of I, just the feeling of I, the pure I, refers to the association with reflected consciousness. Now, I has two associations. This feeling of I has two associations. One association of the I, the feeling of I, is with respect to the reflector, the instrument, which is the mind, the function of the mind. The other is, this is called antahkarana. Because of this because of the association of this with respect to the mirror, only then I can get a feeling of I. The other one is, oh, I know I exist. A simple, pure feeling. This association is with the reflected consciousness or reflected awareness. Now, this association, these two, now, by itself, these have no problem. The antahkarana has four functions. All of us know. The mind, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Isn't it? The feeling of I has two associations. One with antahkarana, or the instrument of reflection. The other association is with reference to the reflection itself, which is called chidabhasa, or reflected awareness. Now, one of the functions of the mind, which is the ego, has three levels of associations. What would that be? One association with the body. Okay. Now, this gives the feeling, I am the body. And what is the reason for this association? What is the reason for association with the body? Why do we get the body? According to our spiritual texts, Vedanta, why are we born?
Because of our vasanas.
Karma, isn't it? Our
Karma.
karmic impressions. So the reason that I get the feeling I am the body is because of my karma. It's a karmic cause. And as long as karma persists, I will continue to feel that I am the body. I'll remain in the body. Isn't it? The next association of the ego is with the mind. And this gives a feeling I am the mind. What is the reason for this? It is natural, sahajam. Why? What is the mind in the previous model? It's the reflector. As long as the reflector is there, reflection is bound to be there, isn't it? We can't separate it. It is natural. No reflector, no reflection. No mind, no chidabhasa. What's the proof? In the waking state, I have a strong feeling I am the mind, I am the thoughts, I am deciding. I am happy, I am sad. What happens in deep sleep? No mind. Is there any reflection? No. It's gone into a seed state. The original consciousness is still there, but the reflection is not present. Isn't it? So, the association with the mind is natural. Cause. The third one is the association of ego with the original, which is awareness. And the ego assumes the position of I am awareness. That means what? I know. I am the knower. Who is the actual knower? The light of the self, the origin, the one that actually reflects. But the ego assumes the position of the knower. And what is the cause? What is the reason for this? And this is the most subtle thing. This is where we have to hit for realization. The reason for this is our illusion, our ignorance. So, I am the body is otherwise translated as the feeling of doership, kartritva. I am the mind. How does it relate to experience? I am the enjoyer, bhoktritva. And I am awareness. How does it translate as an experience? Gnatritva. I am the knower. I know. When I say I know, who is in front? Who is bloated? My ego is bloated. When I say I did this, that means I am the agent of the task. I claim credit for the task. Who is bloated? The ego. The original doer is actually the body. And the body does because of the reflection of the reflected consciousness. But who claims the doership? The ego. And then after doing, who claims the enjoying of the results? I am the enjoyer. Again, the ego. So the ego's association with body, mind, and the awareness is karmic on one side, natural on the other side, because with the mind, without them, only when the mind is there, the reflection is there. And association with awareness is because of delusion or illusion, bhranti. Now this is very beautifully said in Drit Drishya Viveka. in the 8th stanza of the Drishya Viveka, it says, Ahankarasya tadatmyam chichaya deha sakshibhihi. Ahankarasya tadabhyam. Tadabhyam is the identification of the ego with chit chaya, reflected consciousness, deha, or the body, sakshi bihi. Sakshi is the witness or the original or the awareness. What are the reasons? Sahajam. One, it says natural. Then karmajam, because of karma, born out of karma. Brantijanyam, born out of illusion. Trividham kramat. So when I say I do, or I experience, or I know, I must understand that it is the ego, my ego, appropriating it for the original doer, original experiencer, and original knower. In all cases, everything has been possible only because of the light of the witness or light of consciousness, reflecting in the antahkara. So the mix-up, somewhere along the way, there is this mix-up that's happened and ego has taken the credit. So what is the hope? What is the trick? What is the technique? What's the technology? The very same shloka gives the technology out of it. That means when I have a sense of doership, get into karma yoga. Perform actions without results. Perform actions as an offering to the Lord. When I have a strong feeling that I am the experiencer, because of me, I'm experiencing the world, then get into actual jnana yoga and find out how limited the mind is. Now, when I say I know, then it is because of illusion or delusion. This is the subtlest thing, very difficult to actually address, needs the guidance of a realized teacher or a master. Under the guidance, following, the illusion must be broken down only to realize that I am actually the awareness. Now, the feeling I know is only an appropriation of feeling because of the secondary reflection. And the real thing is the original. All right. So now the question comes, where do we establish this knowledge? Now the ignorance is there, the illusion is there. Where do we establish this knowledge? We go through 3 states: waking state, dreaming state, and deep sleep state. Now, in which state is the identification with the body-mind the strongest, very tight?
Waking state.
Waking.
State? Yes. In the waking state, when I am awake, I have a strong identification with the body. I and the small circle dot is solid, strong with the body, isn't it? If somebody, it is so strong that if somebody hits my car, scratches my car, I feel they have hurt me. I go and fight with them. Identification with the car is a reflection of a strong identification with the body. Does it happen so easily in dream or sleep? No. Something happens not just to me, but something happens to one of my family members. Then me and mine, the association is the strongest in the waking state, which means what? The ego is an emperor in the waking state. Now, in the dream state, there is this association, but a little loose. Why? Because I'm lying flat on the bed, but I'm going everywhere in my dream. I would have gone abroad, I would have gone and spoken to people, while physically I'm here lying on the bed. So the association with the body-mind is not so strong, because I can go anywhere and everywhere. Now, in deep sleep, it is not there at all. It is suspended. It has not gone away. It's only suspended. Because, why? It will rise again when my deep sleep ends and I wake up in the morning. So it's gone into a seed form. The mind is in a state of suspended animation. Therefore, association, because the reflection is not there, association is zero. Now, where should knowledge of realization that I am Brahman get established?
Waking state.
Why?
That is the most strongest there.
Yeah, but why? It is strong, agreed, but why? Here is the reason. Here is a thought that is worth pondering. Now, the waking person, the waking jiva, will dismiss the dreaming state as a dream, not real. Agreed? It will dismiss the deep sleep state as again not real. But will the waking jiva ever admit that the waking state is unreal?
No.
Why? Because there is a strong association. And is it really real? I know that this is real. What is the cause? Delusion, Bhrantijam. Bhrantijanyam is what Drikdrishya Viveka says. The strong feeling that I know that this is real, this is the truth, is born out of illusion. And that is the toughest nut to crack. And where is that illusion? Where is the illusion?
It's in the intellect.
It is in the intellect. And where should knowledge be established?
In the intellect.
In the intellect or in the mind. Okay? So there are two things. One is we have got to find out the ashraya or the home for ignorance. Where is ignorance lodged? In the intellect. Because of wrong identification that the waking state is the only truth. Logically too, we know that waking state is only 1/3 of our experience. Another 1/3 is dream experience. Another 1/3 is deep sleep experience. But the waking jiva or the waking individual never accepts the other two as the truth. Possible experiences. It dismisses it, the other two as untruth. But considers all waking experiences as the truth. There is a famous saying, right? I will believe if I see it. So it depends on the waking experience to detect the truth. Is it true? No. Because our eyesight is limited, our hearing bandwidth is limited. We all know that. But still, I tend to believe that what I see, what I touch, what I hear, what I smell is the only truth. So that strong feeling that I know the truth. Where is the ashraya or the location? It is in the mind of the waker. And what is there? Vishaya? What is it about? That ignorance, that thing that I know the truth is there in the mind. That delusion is in the mind. So that can be broken by knowledge. And this is not a second-hand knowledge. It is a direct knowledge. And that can be provided by a proper guidance only through a realized master. Otherwise, the mind will assume that I know and take you from a frying pan to fire. From one pan to the other, we'll be jumping. So a proper guidance of a proper reference of the Vedanta and a teacher who has realized the truths of the Vedanta and can communicate in a language to the level of understanding of the student, both are essential. If we rely on our own intellect, we will rely on our interpretation of the truth. So, to summarize, infinity collapses because infinity wants to experience itself. When we say infinity wants to experience itself, it means that infinity appears as other than itself, as Jiva and Jagat. Appears as other than itself. But really, it is infinity in essence. And infinity being so perfect, it performs the role of being another person, another entity other than itself. How? By its own power of Maya Shakti. That is why there is a strong feeling in the Jiva that I am separate from my Creator. Though Jiva is really Brahman in essence. See, the whole thing. But without that, there's a strong association down the line. And one by one, if we break that association and start disassociating, then we'll realize the truth or the original. And the original, the truth, realization has to be realized by the waking individual. If we address the waking individual, there is no need to address the dream and the deep sleep individual. They are automatically taken care of. Any wrong understanding in the dream, any lack of no understanding in deep sleep is automatically taken care when right understanding is sown in the mind of the waker. Thank you so much. We appreciate your patient listening.